Just a note. In a small envelope with my name in her handwriting. My mother handed it to me at the kitchen table that evening. She did not meet my eyes when she did it. The note was 4 sentences. Clara, there is more than this. Be patient. Arthur will call. I did not know who Arthur was. I asked my mother. She said she didn't know. She said it the way she said things that were true enough to not be lies. I put the note in the bottom of my school bag and went to bed. 2 weeks later, I sat down at that same breakfast table and my mother told me the college fund was gone. Not lost. Not misplaced. Gone. We needed it, she said. The business had a bad year. We'll figure something else out. I looked at her across the table. 4 years of savings. My father's contributions, my own part-time job contributions, birthday money redirected by my grandmother every year since I was 8 specifically because she wanted me to have options. Gone. How much? I said. Clara. How much, Mom? She looked at the table. $42,000. I sat with that number for a long time. Then I got up, went to my room, and started looking up student loans. I did not cry. I had learned, somewhere around age 12, that crying about things my parents did was a tax I could not afford to keep paying. I applied to a state school 2 hours away. Got in. Took out the maximum in federal loans. Worked 2 jobs through all 4 years. A campus library job during the week and a diner on weekends where the owner, a woman named Carol, let me eat a full meal at the end of every shift. I graduated with a degree in accounting, $61,000 in debt, and a very precise understanding of how money worked and what happened when the people who held it made decisions you were not part of. I moved to Portland because it was far enough from Carver Falls to feel like a different life. Got a job at a small firm. Worked my way up slowly, steadily, the way I had always done everything. I called home twice a month. My mother asked about the weather. My father, when he was home from the road, asked about my car. Nobody asked about the college fund. Nobody apologized. Nobody mentioned Nana Ruth's note or Arthur or the suggestion that there was more. I told myself they had forgotten. I had not forgotten. And then, 6 years after my grandmother died, on a Thursday morning in March, I was standing in a grocery store parking lot doing $11 math when my phone rang. Clara, Arthur Bellamy said. Your grandmother left specific instructions. I stood very still. The basket was still in my hand. She said to call you exactly 2 years after her death, he said. She was very particular about the timing. She said, and I am reading this directly from her written instructions, 2 years is long enough for the dust to settle and short enough that nobody has forgotten what the dust was. That was Nana Ruth. Every sentence doing 2 things at once. Mr. Bellamy, I said. What did she leave? He told me. I stood in that parking lot for 22 minutes after the call ended. I did not move. A woman with a cart full of groceries walked around me twice. The $11 of food in my basket suddenly felt like a different weight entirely. Arthur Bellamy's office was in a building in downtown Minneapolis I had driven past 100 times without noticing. 3rd floor. Dark wood. Bookshelves floor to ceiling. The kind of office that has been exactly the same since 1987 and is proud of it. He was 68. Gray at the temples. Reading glasses on a chain. He shook my hand with both of his and held on a moment longer than necessary, the way people do when they have been waiting for someone and are relieved they finally arrived. Sit down, Clara, he said. This is going to take a while. He set a manila folder on the desk between us. Thick. Organized with color-coded tabs. I could see from the first tab that it had been updated recently. The date stamp on the top document was from 2 weeks ago. Your grandmother came to me for the first time in 2009, he said. You were 16. She described a conversation she had just had with you as, and I am reading directly, The most important conversation I have had in years, with the only person in this family who actually listens. I pressed my hands flat against my knees. She came back 7 more times before she died, he said. She was thorough, organized. She knew exactly what she wanted and exactly why she had to do it the way she did. In 2010, Nana Ruth had quietly purchased 83 acres of land in northern Minnesota. Lake access, old-growth timber, an hour from the nearest town. She paid $67,000, cash, from a savings account my father did not know existed. In 2013, she placed that land in an irrevocable trust. The sole beneficiary was me, not my father, not split between family, me, alone. Arthur slid a single page across the desk. Current market value, $419,000. I read the number twice, set the paper down carefully. She bought it for $67,000, I said. In 2010, he said. Land values in that corridor have increased significantly. There has also been interest from a conservation organization and 2 private buyers. Why 2 years after she died? I said. Why wait? Arthur looked at me over his reading glasses. She wrote, and I am reading directly. If I give it to her now, her parents will get their hands on it within 6 months. 2 years gives the estate time to settle and gives Clara time to be old enough and tired enough of surviving that she will know exactly what to do with it. I looked at the folder. She was right, I said. She usually was, he said. In 22 years of practice, I have had very few clients who understood their own families as precisely as your grandmother understood hers. My mother called on a Saturday. No greeting. Direct. I heard you went to Minneapolis. To someone named Bellamy. Yes, I said. Clara, whatever your grandmother thought she was doing, we should discuss this as a family. Mom. Stop. She stopped. I know about the land, I said. I know about the trust. I know it is irrevocable and I know it is mine. Silence. We had no idea, she said finally. She made sure of that, I said. Clara, $42,000. She stopped herself. Yes, I said. 42,000. I know the number. I have known it for 11 years. I'm not calling to fight, I said. I'm telling you I know what Grandma left me and I am handling it. That's all. She said, we just want to be involved. You were involved, I said, with the college fund. I remember how that went. I said goodbye, hung up. My father called 4 days later. His voice had the careful quality of a man who has been briefed on what not to say. See, he said. He had called me that since I was small. It was the only purely affectionate thing he had ever done without being asked. I want you to know I had nothing to do with Dad. I know you were on the road, I said. That's a different conversation. Today is not the day. A long pause. She always said you were the one who paid attention, he said. Almost to himself. I should have paid more attention to what she meant. It was the most honest thing my father had said to me in 11 years. My Aunt Louise called the following week. Your grandmother told me, she said. Not everything, but enough. What did she tell you? She told me she had taken care of you, Louise said. She told me she was worried about what your parents would do with the college fund. She said she had made sure it couldn't happen twice. She knew, I said, about the college fund. She found out 6 months before she died, Louise said. She was furious. I had never seen her furious. She was the kind of woman who converted fury into action before it could become words. She converted it into 83 acres, I said. Louise laughed. Warm. The kind of laugh that lives in a family for generations. She converted it into you, she said. The land was just the delivery mechanism. I drove to Birch Hollow on a Saturday in April. Not to see anyone. The farmhouse had been sold by my father 2 years after Grandma's death, quickly, without sentiment, to a young couple from the city who had planted a vegetable garden in the front yard and painted the porch railing yellow. Nana Ruth would have hated the yellow. She would have said something precise and funny and then made tea. I drove past it slowly. Did not stop. I drove 40 minutes further north. To the land. I parked at a gravel turnout where the county road met a dirt track. Got out. Walked in. 83 acres is larger than you think until you are standing inside it. Old-growth pine and birch. A creek running along the eastern edge. A clearing near the center where light came through the canopy in long gold columns. I stood in that clearing for a long time. I thought about $67,000 saved in secret. 8 visits to Arthur's office over 3 years. A woman who knew her family well enough to know she had to build a wall around her granddaughter before the granddaughter knew she needed one. I thought about the note. 4 sentences. She had known, writing them, that I would wait. She had known because she had watched me my whole life being quiet and useful and overlooked, and had decided that quiet and useful deserved something that could not be spent on a bad year for the dry cleaning business. I sat on a fallen log at the edge of the clearing. The creek was audible from here. Low, steady, the sound of water running the same course longer than anyone has been keeping track. I stayed 2 hours. Then I drove home and made my decision. I called Arthur on a Monday morning. I'm not selling, I said. All right, he said. I want a conservation easement, I said. The timber protected. The creek protected. I want to understand what it means to hold something for the long term. A pause. Your grandmother mentioned once, Arthur said, that you talked as a child about wanting to make something that would still be there after you were gone. I did not remember saying that. I must have been very young. She remembered, I said. She remembered everything about you, Arthur said. That was rather the point. My mother called in May. Her voice had changed, not dramatically, but in the way voices change when something heavy has been set down. The college fund, she said. I need to say something and I need you to let me finish. Okay, I said. We should not have done it, she said. I told your father it was the only option and I told myself the same thing and neither was true. It was the easiest option. There is a difference. I did not say anything. Your grandmother knew, she said. Didn't she? Yes, I said. That's why. She made a sound that was not quite a word. Recognition meeting grief. She never said anything to me, my mother said. Not once. No, I said. She converted it into action instead. That sounds like her, my mother said quietly. We talked for 31 minutes. The longest real conversation in 11 years. She asked about the land with questions that meant she had actually been thinking. At the end she said, I'm glad she took care of you. Not, I'm sorry we didn't. Just, I'm glad she did. It was not everything. But it was honest. And honest from my mother was rarer than almost anything. Me too, I said. My father came to Portland in June. 2 days in his truck, alone. He arrived Saturday morning with gas station coffee and the look of a man who has practiced what he wants to say and suspects none of it is enough. I made better coffee. We sat at my kitchen table. He read Arthur's folder slowly. One finger pressed lightly to the edge of each page. He read the land assessment. The trust documents. The date Grandma first visited Arthur, 2009. The year she sat me down at her kitchen table. He closed the folder. She started this the year she talked to you, he said. Yes, I said. The college fund, he said. I was on the road. I told myself I didn't know. But I did know. Your mother told me before she did it, and I said we'd figure it out. He stopped. That's what I always said. About everything. Yes, I said quietly. It was. He nodded. The nod of a man who has run out of ways to disagree with the truth. I'm sorry, C, he said. I know, I said. We sat 2 more hours. He asked about the conservation easement. He asked what I needed. Nobody had asked me that in a very long time. Nothing, I said. I have everything I need. At the door, he turned back. She used to say you were the one who listened. She used to say, make sure she hears the right things. He looked at me. I didn't make sure. She did. He walked to his truck, raised his hand at the bottom of the steps. I raised mine back. I signed the conservation easement in August. 83 acres. The pine, the birch, the creek along the eastern edge, the clearing where light comes through in long gold columns. Protected. Permanently. Irrevocably. Cannot be developed. Cannot be subdivided. Cannot be sold for anything that changes what it is. I retained ownership. I retained the right to walk on it any time I want. Which I do. 3 or 4 times a year I drive north. Park at the gravel turnout. Walk in. Sit on the fallen log and listen to the creek and think about a woman who started building something for me in 2009 because she had one conversation with her granddaughter and decided this particular person deserved something that could not be taken. She was right. It cannot be taken. My name is Clara Emmett. I am 29 years old. My parents spent $42,000 that belonged to my future and told themselves they would figure it out. My grandmother spent $67,000 of her own money building something my parents would never find, and made sure I would not find it until I was old enough and tired enough of surviving to know exactly what to do with it. She was right about the timing. She was right about everything. If you are watching this and someone has emptied something that belonged to you, a fund, a future, a version of your life you had planned, I want you to hear this. There is more than what they took. Sometimes it is in a manila folder in an attorney's office. Sometimes it is 83 acres nobody has touched since 2010. Sometimes it is 4 sentences written by a woman who knew you well enough to know you would wait. Be patient. Arthur will call. And if nobody has left you a folder, if there is no Arthur, no trust, no acres waiting, then you are the one who builds it now. Quietly. Carefully. With the patience of someone who understands that the best things take 13 years and most people never see them coming. That is not a strategy. That is just what love looks like when it has somewhere solid to stand. If this story spoke to you, leave 1 word in the comments. Just 1. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe. The next one is already waiting.